Gino Bulso is with us, ladies and gentlemen, running in the 7th. Mark Green said, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. And we've been telling you guys to text in, give us your questions. Brother, thanks so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Chad, happy to be here with you.
So we've been chatting about all kinds of stuff in between, and we're pretty excited about this. The first question we ask all of our guests, do you like mayonnaise?
No.
Okay, well, there you go. We wish you luck. And
interview over.
There you go. Well, there you go. Jody doesn't like it either. We're running out of people here. Mayonnaise is our go-to condiment.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I don't think you realize how important it is to our show.
No, I apologize, Chad.
It doesn't matter. It's too late now.
Okay.
At least you're honest with us about that. So let's first and foremost, let's throw it out there. Tell us how everything is going, how you're feeling about everything right now as we started early voting. Everything's out there. What's your sense?
We feel great. We were the last one into the race in late July, and we're able to catch the pack according to our internal polling by the end of August. And our polls have us right there in the dead heat for first, and we are reaching out to voters every possible way that we can on TV, on radio, on digital, in the mail, in-person appearances. Obviously, we've had a lot of debates and forums, so we are optimistic that we're ultimately be able to win this on October 7th.
So, weeds, we ask everybody about weed. I am a teetotaler, for those of you guys who are new to the show, just listening and stuff, and I'm a teetotaler, I'm a gold star, never tasted alcohol, never had a smoke, never had a drug. I don't even like taking it. Like if I hurt my foot, don't even give me aspirin. I'm like, I don't like it. That being said, I'm a big kind of libertarian in the free world, and people are asking about weed. I think they want to get your sense on where you sit with that.
About marijuana?
Yeah. Reefer, the sticky icky.
Okay. Well, I look at it as an issue of public safety. I mean, just take a step back. Why is it that we make illegal any type of narcotic, whether it's heroin or cocaine or LSD or marijuana or anything else? And ultimately, it's not a moral or religious position that causes us as a society to outlaw many of these drugs. It's because they actually harm people. And one of the things that we've seen around the country, Chad, is that I believe it's 24 states now that have legalized marijuana. Colorado was one of the early states. What we saw in Colorado was that after it legalized marijuana, traffic-related deaths that were caused by drivers under the influence of marijuana spiked by 138%. And that, unfortunately, is a reason, in my view, that we should not legalize marijuana here in Tennessee.
So I'm a freedom kind of guy. I think as an adult, you should be allowed to live your life, do your thing. I think people ask, well, why is it illegal? Well, we kind of know why. If you want to go back and look why it's illegal, it's because it had more to do with politics, about hemp and paper and stuff than a lot of other things. But it is not cocaine. It's not all those things. And alcohol, we can say the same thing about alcohol. I mean, alcohol is far more devastating than a lot of drugs. If we found alcohol today, they would never let it be illegal.
It's an interesting question to ponder, but you're right. I mean, the last report from NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation Safety Association, that I read indicated that we had approximately 40,000 traffic deaths in the country last year. 1/3 of those were caused by drivers under the influence of alcohol. So we actually lost approximately 13,300 lives due to alcohol in just 1 year in 2024 in the United States. And just to put that number in perspective, when you look at firearm-related homicides in the United States for the same period, for 2024, there were just over 16,000 homicides by firearms. So I think there's no question but that driving under the influence is a significant safety hazard, and there very well could be folks advocating making alcohol illegal for that reason.
Yeah. Remember what happened when that did that back in the day? We saw a huge spike in crime because, the gangs wanted it all illegal, all the mobsters. But it's just because I think we're at the point where I think a lot of our vets, a lot of people, the gummies, the stuff like that, where it does help them, and growing them at home. Jody kind of tiptoed around the questions, he's like, if you grow it at home and you're going to keep it and you're going to do it at home, it is, I don't have a problem with that. And because everybody's afraid to say, you know what, if you're an adult, you should be kind of allowed to do what you want to do as long as you're not going to harm anybody.
Well, and that's an argument against the government acting in a paternalistic way. I certainly understand that. But the key there, Chad, is you're not going to harm anybody. And what we've seen from these states that have legalized marijuana is that it does harm folks. Now, that may not be a reason ultimately that a state may decide to keep it illegal, but there is no denying the fact that the data shows that in Colorado and in other states, traffic-related deaths increased with the legalization of marijuana because in Colorado, 20% of drivers that caused accidents that caused fatalities had marijuana in their system.
What do you think about medical marijuana?
Well, I think it's a bit of a nuanced answer. I mean, the term medical marijuana is kind of inherently ambiguous. When you step back and look at it, I mean, if God put some plant or some chemical on this earth that a physician acting in accordance with the standard of care and acting ethically for the good of the patient could use to cure disease or to ease pain, then there'd be no logical reason not to allow such a drug to be used in the practice of medicine. The difficulty, of course, is in keeping the drug properly regulated to those areas where it actually is being used for legitimate medical reasons, as distinct from someone going to a walk-in clinic complaining of a headache and saying, give me a prescription for medical marijuana. I'm certainly somebody that's in favor of the former, but not the latter.
Gino Bulso is with us. We're talking about a lot of different things. You guys are sending a ton of stuff in. Keep sending us questions you've got for him. And a lot of it, again, we get a lot with the medical marijuana. Here's something, and I'm not trying to be mean, but just being honest. Everybody's commercials sound the same. Like, what separates all you guys? Like, and a lot of people have asked that. What's the difference between you and, like, everybody's trying to out-Trumpy the other person. I would say love Trump. What's the difference between everybody? Because it all kind of sounds and feels a little bit of the same.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, all of us are very different because I've had a chance, obviously, to know many of these candidates for a long time, serving with them in the legislature. And if you're looking at me, asking me what distinguishes me from the other three candidates, I'd say principally, Chad, it's two things. One, I'm known as the constitutional conservative in the race. I love this country. I love our country. Obviously, we just celebrated yesterday the anniversary of the signing of the Constitution on September 17 of 1787. And I'm very much interested in getting our federal government back within the bounds of the Constitution to give the people the type of limited federal government that our founders intended when they signed that document on September 17, 1787. And then the second thing is just my record of accomplishment and achievement in the state legislature, because I have passed almost 24 bills into law in just my 3 years in the State House of Representatives. Some of those are very significant, touching on pro-life issues, pro-Second Amendment issues, anti-illegal immigration issues, keeping biological boys out of girls' sports. And everything I've done in the state legislature is 100% consistent with the America First agenda that President Trump is pursuing in Washington, D.C. So in my view, it's those two things principally that differentiates me, the focus on the Constitution and the record of accomplishment in the state legislature.
And that sounds great. And you talk about getting back to the Constitution. Kimmel was suspended from ABC, and I think it's a good thing to ask because I think a lot of people, even people here who can't stand Kimmel, minus a few people that are totally fine that Trump does whatever he wants. The FCC, though, the chair coming out and basically saying, you're either going to do this the easy way or the hard way, and then him getting suspended a little bit later, that's a sense. And no matter what anybody says, if that was a gang, you would be like, well, they put it to me, you're either going to give me the lead or you're going to give me the silver. It has some people worried that, hey, this just feels like you're taking a step here where you're trying to come down on people that are criticizing, and that worries me.
Well, let me separate, public actors from private actors.
Yeah.
All of us have a right of free speech under the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you have that and you exercise that doesn't mean that an employer is obligated to keep you employed because of views you might express publicly or privately. When it comes to the government, on the other hand, obviously the government should not do anything to coerce or to suppress any particular type of speech unless it's the kind of speech that is directed to inciting violence or crime. That is in a different category according to our Supreme Court precedent.
So, because, I mean, you would understand, like if you were in court and you listened to what he said, you would go, that feels like it's a mob thing where he goes, we're going to do this the easy way or the hard way. And that's what he told ABC and Disney. And then he suspended a few hours later. It's easy to find some reasonable doubt there where people would go, well, yeah, that sounds like you just told them get rid of him or else.
Well, I've not actually been able to take a look closely at what the FTC has said, but to the extent that somebody in the government is applying pressure to a private company to fire someone for something they said, that's not something I'd be in favor of. All right.
Gino Bulso's with us. We want to get what you guys have to say and definitely send us all the questions you have because, it's you guys have a lot of good questions. And the one of the things that I think people are trying to figure out here is everybody looks at politicians and, whether you start out a little bit small, you're in the state, you may be city council, whatever it is, but eventually, a lot of people want to get to D.C. And the worry about that is who's funding a lot of it? The lobbyists, right? AIPAC, we talk about that all the time. I asked Jody, I've asked all of the people that come in here, Afton and everybody about AIPAC, and they're like, they call us all the time. I have a problem with that because I think they should be registered as a foreign agent, but there's a lot of other people out there besides just AIPAC. And, it's like sometimes I think everybody should be in NASCAR. You guys should be, whoever's sponsoring you guys should be wearing the patches.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Chad, because we do have a problem with dark money being involved in politics and to a certain extent trying to overcome the will of the people. That's going to take a constitutional amendment, which frankly I'm in favor of, given the Supreme Court's decision in the Citizens United case. But I do not believe that corporations, PACs, should have the same rights of free speech under the First Amendment as individual citizens do, which is currently the law. So I think that's something that does need to be changed. And when you look at the top four candidates on the Republican side, Chad, I'm happy to say that ours is the only campaign that has received donations, contributions, and support solely from private individuals. We have no corporate money, we have no PAC money, and it's generally, I think it's 550 unique individual persons who have donated to our campaign to allow us to get our message out. Whereas, obviously, you've seen a huge influx of dark money in this race in just the last 2 weeks, both supporting some of the other candidates and attacking one of the other candidates as well.
Would you... getting money out of politics is, as you know, money courts power, power courts money. It's the way it works. Unfortunately, politics is a business. No matter what they say, it's a $1 trillion business. Would you like to see Citizens United overturned and there be some sort of limit across the board of what things? Because I'd like more transparency because there are too many people that I feel like if for politicians, it's party first, politician second, and whatever's left for the people, well, that's what you guys get.
I mean, I'm not in favor of the Supreme Court overturning Citizens United because I think it was properly decided based on the language of our current First Amendment. But I do think we have two corrosive influences in elective politics. One is the absence of term limits for Congress because we have folks that go up there and just stay forever. And they've somehow lose focus on helping the public, acting in the public welfare, and they become more interested in just perpetuating themselves in office. And then second, this corporate money, this PAC money that we've been talking about, it unfortunately causes politicians sometimes to act in the interests of those who are funding them rather than in the interests of those who voted for them. So I'm all in favor of getting us to a constitutional convention where we can not just do away with PAC money in federal elections, but put in term limits for Congress and get to a balanced budget as well.
Oh, that sounds good. Gino Bulso's here. He is running, obviously, the 7th. You guys know that, but that's why. Keep sending your questions. We got a lot of questions here. We got more with him. He's going to be here throughout the rest of the show today, and we got a lot more questions coming up straight ahead. Chad Benson, Super Talk 99.7. All right. Gino Bulso is with us. We are talking about, obviously, election. It's coming up fast. It's already early voting's going on. You're out and about. You got a debate tonight, or is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Okay, this is the third debate?
It's probably the 15th.
Oh, really?
We've had a lot of them.
It's the third one, though, at was it the Ray Stevens Theater or whatever?
Yes, at the Ray Stevens Cabaret.
How many people are going to be there tomorrow?
I'm not sure.
Okay. It's a surprise.
Well, it just depends on who shows up. I mean,
Okay.
I think everyone who's a Republican candidate is invited, but how many actually appear, I won't know.
Okay, very cool. Term limits. You talk about term limits. A lot of people ask about term. What exactly, term limit-wise, would you like to see? Because, it's not – is it for the Senate and for Congress? What would you like to see?
I'd like to see 12 years in each chamber.
Okay.
So in the Senate, that's 2 terms. In the House, that's 6 terms.
Yeah, I think that is good. But are you worried because, and you and I both know this, and for those of you out there, you get into this and you go out to D.C., it's a different world now because you find out, okay, this is a lot more business. There's a lot more moving parts. There's a lot more pressure, even from your own party at times, and to get stuff done, even if you don't agree with it. And that was my frustration with the One Big Beautiful Bill. Like the Palantir stuff, I'm sorry, Palantir is building an empire it is the evil empire as far as I'm concerned, to be able to do pretty much anything they want in the way, in AI and all of this stuff. And plus, Peter Thiel's obsessed with the Antichrist, which is so weird. Mm-hmm. I have worries about things like that. And not just because AI, we have to have it because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
So we have to be the leader. But I worry about the stuff that Snowden talked about is going to be nothing comparatively to what Palantir is going to be able to deliver.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of issues when you get to Washington, D.C. What can you actually accomplish given how dysfunctional things are, how much business is transacted there? But I think we just fall back, Chad, on looking at what has worked historically. I mean, you obviously remember Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And you probably remember that in his farewell address to the American people on January 11, 1989, he said, "I did not do anything that you did not do for me."
Yeah.
And so he had the public behind him, and that's how he was able to convince Congress to enact his agenda. President Trump is very much the same way. He's got the public solidly behind what he's doing, and that's how he's able to move Washington in the way that he is able to move it. And that goes obviously all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, who in that first debate with Stephen Douglas in 1858 said public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Against it, nothing can succeed. So I'm going up to D.C., Chad, as one representative. By myself, I can do nothing. But if I can enact some changes that get the public energized to change the way Washington works, to change its taxing policy, to change its spending policy, to get it to take serious that $37.2 trillion debt, then I believe we can accomplish quite a bit.
You talk about the debt, and we could sit here. Another thing with the One Big Beautiful Bill, the only tax cuts that were really made permanent were for the top 1%. I would have raised their taxes because they don't pay taxes. Like you and I both know this. What Steve Bannon even said, you could raise it to 100%. Those people aren't paying. They know what they're doing. Those things are put there for them. They help craft these laws to get around all of this stuff. They borrow money off their stocks. The way they do it it's brilliant the way they've set it up. But there is that worry that, again, the rich we're seeing this big gap, that middle class that really Trump has done extremely well with because the left has abandoned them. That is shrinking, and I feel like it's getting further and further apart.
Let me just gently push back on that a little bit, Chad, because as fate would have it, I actually looked at the IRS statistics from 2022, which is the last year for which the data is available. And what those statistics showed was that for the fiscal year 2022, the bottom 50% of wage earners paid 3% of the total federal income tax. Okay, so the bottom half paid 3%. The top 1% of wage earners paid 40% of the entire federal tax income. The top 10% paid 97%.
I absolutely know.
For those who say that top wage earners don't pay taxes, it is demonstrably a false claim.
Well,
it's
a false claim when everybody says that, but you also look and say the way that, that they pay taxes and the way that they can maneuver around certain things and is tremendous because you can't ignore the fact, because I care about everybody, the middle class, the poor, the wealthy. I want everybody to do well. But I feel like the middle class is getting squeezed in ways that they're asking a lot of the middle class at times, and I feel like they're really getting squeezed.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more there, Chad. You're absolutely right. In fact, the cost of living that our families are now having to deal with is just unacceptable. When you look at the cost of housing, you look at the cost of health insurance, you look at the cost of groceries, you look at the cost of transportation. It's simply not an America that we grew up in or that our parents grew up in. And I think in large part that's a function of the fact that we have a federal government that just spends too much, that actually feeds the inflation that we saw over the last 4 years with the Biden-Harris administration. And one of the, I think, best things that President Trump is doing is focusing on that middle class, because we need a vibrant middle class in order to move the country forward. And I'm somebody who's in favor of getting to a flat fair tax. I mean, Steve Forbes, made famous in his run for president, the flat tax at, I think it was 15% at the time. I think that's a far better system than normalizing taking a 30% or 35% or 40% of a family's wages and then allowing all these different deductions from time to time. I'd like to reduce the tax burden on the middle class so that we can spur the economy.
Absolutely. Gino Bulso is with us. He's going to be with us. We got a bunch of other questions about Charlie Kirk, about a lot of different things. Epstein, the whole 9 yards. I see all your questions. If you got any more, send them into us right here. You can text the program. He is here with us through the end of the hour. This is Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. All right, here we go. Gino Bulso in the studio. Somebody wanted me to ask you this, and I said this is the kind of question we'd ask, because you've already said you hate mayonnaise, but whatever. We're still gonna ask you and be nice to you. Do you like Wendy's?
Do I like Wendy's?
Yeah.
Yes.
They make square burgers. You got to tell people that.
Dave's been doing that since the 1970s.
Yeah,
I think they're delicious.
Yeah, there you go, guys. Wendy's, it's a yes on the Wendy's. All right. Epstein. It's a big deal for a lot of people because the reality is the Trump campaign and a lot of the people, whether it has been, the likes of Dan Bongino or even Trump himself, the vice president, of course, the FBI director, pushed a lot of this stuff. We got to get this out there. Thomas Massie seems to be one of the only Republicans that really wants this thing to come out. And I don't think Trump's involved in any of this stuff. And I think there's a lot of people that are. Would you be in favor of getting it released?
I'd be in favor of something slightly different, Chad, because one thing we know is that, Epstein was involved for many years in abusing young ladies, and Maxwell assisted him in that effort. And what is concerning to me is that despite the fact that there were many others involved in his illegal criminal conduct, there have been no prosecutions except of Epstein and Maxwell. So whether the Department of Justice releases records or not, my question is, why is it that the authorities either in Florida or New York or wherever else this horrific conduct occurred have not done more to find those who were responsible, along with Epstein, in abusing these young ladies and bring them to justice? That's what concerns me the most.
Do you think, because, obviously there's conspiracy theories and stuff, but it feels like, and I think most people, even CIA agents and a lot of other people say, yeah, he was probably some sort of asset for somebody. So there's always the worry, whether it's the Mossad or the CIA, because how do you get away with it for that long and do those many things? And people have serious questions about this. And the women, even yesterday, I don't know if you saw anything with Kash Patel, but him and, he said he never trafficked to anybody but himself, which we know is a lie, because Prince Andrew, for God's sakes, why? That's the stuff that frustrates so many people and things like this, because it's like your wife saying, no, you can't look at the phone, even though I'm texting somebody. That makes you think that there's something you don't want me to see.
Exactly. But this is serious criminal conduct occurring over many years, involving many players. I mean, so putting aside just for a moment what's in a particular file that the Department of Justice has, I mean, why is it that our criminal justice authorities have not found witnesses, investigated these cases, and brought charges against others who are responsible? That's frankly what I'd like to know.
Well, it's very disturbing. Well, they found the witnesses. They've got the women, but they're all terrified. And Massey, he said, look, I'll announce their names on the floor because, Hey, the founding fathers, they made sure that we're not going to get sued for it, but we've got to start somewhere. And it sounds like they're not interested in prosecuting, and that makes everybody go, okay, then there's got to be some big players. If you're not going to go after people who did things to young girls, and your thing is, we're done, he committed suicide, there's nothing to see here, and we've got the file paperwork, and they can go through it or not. That sends a horrible message, I think, to a lot of people out there when the big push is, we're here to protect the kids.
It does. I mean, the fact of the matter is I think our focus should be on prosecuting those who harmed our young ladies, underage girls, in this horrific manner over a period of years. And just releasing records so that the public can see them, in my mind, does not nearly go far enough. We need to have those who were involved in that conduct, abusing those girls, held criminally responsible.
Oh, I agree. I mean, you can do it all across the board, but if you're not going to do anything from here on out, then it just feels like the swamp got bigger, and even this president is involved with it. He's willing to look the other way because he said stuff like it's a hoax, and it's not. None of this stuff. You can't look at those, because I think the other problem is everybody sees those women as women, but they were girls. They were,
right.
you know, and if they were all 14-year-old girls standing out there, I think America would have a different picture of this situation.
No doubt. I agree 100%.
So, Charlie Kirk, obviously last week was horrific. Political violence. There's, first of all, I'm going to say political. There's no place in the world for just violence. You know, whatever, keep your hands to yourself kind of stuff. This is an ugly situation. It's an ugly time. You know, the left has gone wackadoo and has been heading in a weird direction. The right's had their problems as well. Let's not pretend that both sides at some point in time haven't had the lead in something. How would you bring the temperature down?
Well, I think I would just continue to do what Charlie Kirk did his whole life. I mean, he was about engaging others in respectful dialogue and getting to the truth. And I think that's what we need to do as part of Charlie's legacy, is to continue to do that. When his widow, Erica, addressed the country several days ago, she said that Charlie wanted to be remembered for two things, faith and courage. And I think we can honor Charlie's legacy the best by picking up both of those virtues, faith and courage. And faith obviously involves having respect for, having love for your fellow man. I mean, that's obviously one of the central tenets of the moral teachings of Christianity. So we have to have love overcome hate, and we have to have the courage to follow the truth. And that's what Charlie did his whole life, no matter who it offended. And obviously, some of what he said offended many, but he was simply looking at the world through the eyes that God gave him, through principles of natural law, and understanding that there's an order to things and following that order. So my advice as to how we bring the temperature down, we continue with Charlie's legacy, faith and courage.
You're going to, you know, you hear this in today's world now because of gerrymandering, because a lot of this stuff, the primaries are really important for a lot of, you can look around the country and go, right, if whatever primary is done here, the other person has no shot. But there is, you know, I mean, we look around the country, we see states where 35% voted for Trump or 40% voted for Trump, yet they've got no representation. And those people don't seem to care about those people. And then you look over here and you say, you know, 35 or 40% voted for the other side, but the Republicans have no representation. How do we bring it so people feel like, look, I may not agree with you, but at least I think you're doing an honest thing and you're working for my side? How do you try to expand that tent?
It's difficult, Chad, because, you know, what you're referring to is this concept called gerrymandering.
Yeah.
And that's been going on since 1802. I mean, the term actually comes from the then governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry, who was a signatory to the Declaration of Independence. And he was in favor of, and ultimately did, redistrict a state Senate district in a form of a salamander, which is how the term gerrymandering came about. So this type of political redistricting has been with us since the founding of our country. And so when someone raises the question, how do we get rid of it? I would say with difficulty, because regardless of which party has been in power, it is something that has been done to increase the power of that party. And I do not have a good answer, Chad, as to how we do away with it.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Gino Bulso's in here. Early voting's going on. You got, obviously, we're getting closer. You getting nervous? You can be honest.
Okay, the honest answer is no. Because I come from a competitive background, not just in the courtroom where we try significant cases to judges and juries all over the country, but an athletic background. And I mean, from my perspective, you just do your best and you leave the result in God's hands. So I'm not nervous about the way this is going to turn out. I'm optimistic that we're going to be successful because of all the work that we're putting in, the response we're getting from voters, and the data that we have showing that we're right there at the top of the heap. So nerves really do not enter into it, whether we're here on the tennis court or in the courtroom.
Do you think you could bench more than Jody or Afton?
Certainly more than Afton.
Yeah.
And, maybe more than Jody. We'd have to see.
Yeah. I mean, how about Reeves?
Maybe so.
Maybe so?
Maybe so.
Could you beat him in a foot race?
Without question.
Okay, just want to make sure because these are important things that people want to know, right? You know what, guys? We ask serious questions here. We do. Immigration, hot topic. Obviously, probably the number one thing that besides the economy that blew up Biden's presidency was immigration. And we've been talking about this. People are all about, let's get rid of all the bad guys. Let's get rid of a lot of these people that have come over here. But then they start to see how the sausage is made. And you and I both know, with some of the stuff that they're seeing, people are like, oh, hold on a second. I don't know if I want that. How do we go about getting the people out of here? Why aren't we going after business owners more often? Why aren't we going after some of these people that are facilitating this and are hiring some of these people in it rather than just going after? Because I think once we can start doing that, and that's the question that's been out there forever. I'm not the first one to ask it. That why aren't we going in a certain way because once it dries up, people would rather be broke at home from where they came than here in a nation that they have nothing.
Well, I'm proud to say that in the Tennessee General Assembly, we have been enacting measures to try to deal with that very issue, holding others responsible for either smuggling or harboring or in any way getting illegal aliens into the job market, because it is something that needs to be demagnetized. And President Trump, obviously, just by the force of his leadership when he was sworn in, stopped the flow of illegal immigrants over our southern border. And so now the question is, what do we do with trying to clean up those who are here illegally? And I think ultimately, Chad, we need to get to a country where everybody is here lawfully. We simply cannot tolerate the type of shadow societies that we have now, where we have groups of illegal aliens that are just in the shadows of our communities. We need to go ahead and bring them out. We need to address, who should be allowed to stay through an appropriate, H-2A visa or an H-2B visa, and who needs to leave.
Yeah.
And I think President Trump has offered great leadership, even recognizing that in the agricultural world and in the hospitality world, there may be immigrants that should be issued appropriate work permits under our existing immigration laws. But I think we need to accelerate the pace at which that process is undergoing.
He's going to stick around. Gino Bulso is here. We're going to wrap up the show. We got some more questions for him coming up here. And if you got a couple more questions, send it on in right here to us. We got him in here. And again, early voting's going on. So he says he's not nervous. He knows he can outbench and outrun any of the other people, which is, I think, feats of strength need to be part of what you guys do. Maybe a swimsuit contest for everybody. I don't know what the next debate holds for us.
The mayonnaise thing's still an issue.
Then the mayonnaise thing is definitely an issue. He doesn't like mayonnaise, if you guys heard. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. All right. So, Gino Bulso's here as we wrap up the program. The immigration thing, I like where you went with that. I think that was a strong thing. We've got a lot of people. I've said this. We've got, for lack of a better term, but you know what? We got people who want a booty call. They're here for money. They're not. That's it. They're here for the economic. They don't even want to live here. They don't want to settle here. They eventually like to go home. But we do have people that want to put a ring on. They want to marry. They've been here. They're in the shadows. Bringing them out, I think, isn't the worst thing. And getting the worst of the worst, just that shouldn't be hard to do. But you see the sanctuary cities, they make it as hard as anything. Do you think there is a pathway in that way? Because I do know that Trump is seriously considering, okay, we can't get rid of everybody. There are industries that depend on these people. Do you think there is a pathway there?
I think there's a way that we can decide who we want to stay, because I think we've got two fundamental truths, Chad. One, it's historically been the case that we rely on immigrants for our country. I mean, legally.
Yeah.
My grandparents came to this country in the 1920s through Ellis Island, and we lived the American dream. My parents were born here. I was the first person in my family to go to college. You know, I was in a vocational track in sheet metal when I was in high school, but a lot of my teachers recognized some academic potential, so I ended up going to college and went to law school. And then Kathy and I have been married for 40 years now. We've got 5 wonderful children, 8 grandchildren. We've had the chance to live the American dream. So we do want to continue with a robust legal immigration process, but we also need folks to love this country. Because if we do not have people that genuinely love this country and want to see it prosper, we will dissolve as a society. And we're not close to that right now, but we're close enough that I've decided to take my love for our country and go to D.C. to try to improve things, because we are at a crisis where you look at our preamble to the Constitution and we talk about preserving the benefits of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And that's the critical question right now. What are we going to do to secure the blessings of liberty to our posterity, our children and grandchildren? That's the critical question. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you, and that's why I'm in this race, Chad.
If you see something that Trump does, because a lot of people are afraid, are you going to push back? Because I want somebody who's independent, strong enough to push back. And let's be real. It comes with, it's fraught, you know, if you see something you don't like and you know, Massey goes and does it and you know, it doesn't always have to be for something, but sometimes we do need, you know, even the everybody, because it's co-equal branches. And I think Congress over the last 20 years has decided we don't want to be equal. We'd like to be a little lesser land. We'll let the judicial and the president, you guys can hash it out. Would you push back if need be?
Absolutely. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag because, you know, the role of Congress is set out in Article 1 of the Constitution. It's got 17 enumerated powers under Section 8. It's gone way beyond that. It's actually usurped powers that the states have and we're left with under the 10th Amendment. The powers of the executive are set out in Article 2 of the Constitution. And recently, I mean, you are correct, Congress has ceded some of its power to the executive branch, especially in areas of war power. So I'm someone, Chad, who's going up there not to follow any person in particular. I'm going up there to follow the Constitution.
So we got about a minute here. Give you the floor, whatever you want to say to the people. Why Gino? Why him? We know what he can bench. We know what he runs the 40 in. That's always good. He hates mayonnaise, likes Wendy's. What else about you that you would want to say that, hey, this is your chance to tell everybody why you?
I would just say that I'm someone who's had the opportunity to live the American dream. I'm a self-made man. You know, as I mentioned, I was the first person in my family to go to college. Kathy and I have worked very hard to raise our 5 kids, and we're enjoying the fruits of that with our 8 grandkids right now. And we need folks in Washington who genuinely want to hand off a country to our children and grandchildren that is at least as prosperous as the one that we inherited from our parents. And we are not on that track right now. We need to get there. We need to reduce taxes. We need to reduce spending. We need to reduce the cost of living. And I have some ideas as to how to accomplish all those things.
All right. Gino's all for weed, too. All right. I'm kidding. Everybody, settle down. We know he's not. Appreciate you coming in, man. Good luck.
Thank you, Chad.
On your way. This is going to be a battle, no doubt about that. You guys have a good one. Matt, straight ahead.